I get asked this question almost on a weekly basis,
Yeah.
and at some point I told myself I'm not going to answer this question anymore now.
Sorry.
No, no. When I will answer it now because when people ask me in the future, I'll say, "Hey, look at this podcast."
Yes, yes. Do it, huh? Pakka. Hello and welcome to the Daily Lawyer podcast. My name is Jana Krishnan. I'm your host and I'm also the founder of the Daily Lawyer. On this podcast, we'll take you on a journey with lawyers, sometimes business owners, who will share their experiences, their mistakes, their learnings in respect to the law so that you can avoid making the same ones in your business and life. We also have short solo episodes where I share lessons that I have learned from my over 15 years of legal practice. So buckle up for a ride of both knowledge and fun. My guest today is Rafael Pereira. Rafael is the managing partner of Tinuts. He is a lawyer and he works in the intersection of law and business in the areas relating to intellectual property, technology, entertainment, arts, and culture. His counsel is based on 12 years of trial and error in the creative industry in South and Southeast Asia. He works with creators across arts and disciplines, entrepreneurs across sectors, and ventures across borders. Today's conversation with Rafael is around law and music in the world of entertainment law, but specifically law with regard to the world of music. Rafael, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I know it's taken a while to get here, but I'm just happy that we can start.
Yes, me too. I was just saying in your introduction that, our conversation today is, while it's going to be focused in the realm of entertainment law, but I think more so in the world of law and music, because from what I know of you, you have I wouldn't say that you're specialized in entertainment. I mean, in music, law and music, but I know that reached out to you for that, and I would love to get that information out in public. But before we go there, why don't you start with your journey in the law, because you've had such a sort of unique journey so far. So, and also, if you can just tell everyone, I loved the name of your firm, the Tin Nuts. So if you can tell everybody, take them from the time you decided to do law and then where you are today.
Yeah. So I started out about 16 years ago on the event side of the entertainment business. It was just a chance that I happened to chance upon this opportunity to work on a community festival because my friends were already working on it, and I kind of blackmailed them to get myself a spot on the team. Did everything from assembling drum kits to making sure artists got their cabs on time, to making sure they were ending their sound check on time or getting on stage for their performance on time. All of those kinds of things. And then one thing led to the next. I was working on some of the biggest festivals and concerts that were happening in India, and I also had to figure out at some point what I wanted to do. The big question that I want to say society, but it's actually parents push you to make a decision between art, science, and commerce and things like that. And I did my 11th and 12th. My HSC was arts. And then, I mean, of course, you can't do science, or I think you can do commerce today, but at that point, I didn't want to do a BA. I didn't really see the point of any other course, and law was an option, more so because I was watching James Spader on Boston Legal, and I was highly influenced by that show. We all know that it's nothing.
It's a lot more glamorized and dramatized than the truth is.
Yeah, but I mean, I still felt maybe the practice more than Boston Legal, but Boston Legal compared to Suits, Boston Legal gives you a little bit of a better picture.
That's true.
What
Yeah.
happened? in a courtroom. And for me, that was the drama. That was yeah, I guess I'm a big fan of theater. It's my passion. So I wanted something with a bit more drama in my life, and I think that's what led me to pick law or further studies in law. So I did the 5-year integrated course. Um, the first 2 years were pretty light, at least when you do it in a college in Bombay or something that's not a national law school. You don't have law or substantive law subjects from your first
Yeah.
semester. So it was pretty easy. I could continue to work on films as a runner, production assistant, part of the directorial team, well, like an AD. I could work on events. Again, some of the biggest tours in the country, things like Guns N' Roses and um, Rusko and Nero and all of these artists coming in. At that point, I'd just be part of managing their tours and the hospitality and logistics, and it was just yeah, something that I really didn't want to give up, and law was a backup at that point. So going a few years forward, um, I even started a bunch of companies in the media and entertainment sector, just because I saw housing.com was raising a lot of money, and I said, hey, uh, how do I get a share of this? And
Oh my God. You're like majorly entrepreneurial. And I'm just liking how involved you have been in every part of the entertainment law world. And then, you became, I say you adopted your role as a lawyer. So
yeah.
I think it's given you such rounded perspective, which is very rare, which is probably a USP in terms of, being a lawyer for this for and serving this industry. Because not just have you done all this, but you've also started companies. What company did you start for this?
Yeah, the first one was a staffing company. It was just something. So, based on my journey of working, like, the whole earn while you learn model, um, it was a company that offered college students opportunities to work on events um, and shoots, film shoots, ad shoots, TV shoots, things like that. And from there, it just led to a company that provided services to um, all of the biggest concert and festival promoters in the country. Today, it's in its 10th year now.
So you still have the company, is it?
Yeah, my sister runs the company. She and I started it together back then. Of
Okay,
course, when I
lovely.
had to get serious and move on to the legal side, she took over, and I dare say she's done much better
How sweet.
than I have, and um, yeah, but it was that there was an artist management company, there was a creative content production, convention and exhibition promotion company. These were just a lot of opportunities that I saw at the time and said, okay, if no one else is addressing it, and I've told people about these opportunities, then maybe I should, because
Yeah,
for one, I don't like squandering any opportunity. My first recourse is obviously not to take more stuff onto my plate, but it's
yeah.
obviously talk about an opportunity. But then when I see that no one's willing to take it up, somehow I get very tempted to fill in a void myself. But um, yeah, so all of this was happening, and I was also working on a few theatrical productions, and um, at that time, I had to make a decision of whether I wanted to continue in the legal field, or was it just going to be a backup degree,
Yeah.
as they say. And um, so I started out doing a lot more internships, apprenticeships, clerkships on the criminal law side, and
Okay.
yeah, just because it's drama, right?
Yeah. I
At
can see this recurring theme in your life.
yeah, more than drama, I feel it was, and it's the
Yeah, it's
same
just like
reason for
exciting and unpredictable.
it's tangible, it's
Yeah, yeah, true, true.
life and liberty in your hands at some
Yeah.
point. It's that's at stake, And with media and entertainment, it may not be life and liberty, but someone's work. And um, we may work on, um on an agreement for 6 to 8 months before a song may be even released,
Yeah.
an album is released. We may work on a film for even like 2 or 3 years before it sees the light of day. But at the end of it, the work product is something
Yes.
tangible. Right?
Of
You
course.
can more
Yes.
than tangible, it's palpable. You
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's touching. You can like literally touch and feel it, right? And it's also in so many ways. It is in a way life, right? It is their life's work. So much passion goes into it.
yeah,
So it's very. I can see the connection between criminal law. So then, how did you get to starting your own firm? Because I know that you started your firm very young, as
yeah.
a very young lawyer. So how did you get to starting your own firm?
So while I was in law school, I started advising artists who didn't have any money or anyone to go to on their
Mm.
artist management agreements, or they would come to me with a recording agreement. And uh, most of the time it was just, okay, can you just explain this to me? And
Yeah,
that is all that I did, because I didn't have an idea of what's happening. At least on the music label side of things, I didn't have an idea of what was standard practice, or what were some of the standard terms, or what was
yeah.
non-negotiable. That's the norm. I didn't have too much of an idea. It was just me being able to translate legalese to English.
Regular language, yeah.
And
Understandable language.
yeah,
I think
just
I really want to also, as in pause, and then not right now, maybe a little down the road when you have when we've gone through your journey, because all of these things, right, whether you set recording agreements or artist management agreements, and these terms don't make sense to most people. Like, what does that mean? So I think I want to pause at some point and then literally go and explain what these mean.
sure.
But sorry, you can continue.
It was, yeah, that's how it started. And then all those clients who I had on the event staffing side, with the companies, or they were clients of the companies that I had started, I just said, hey, um, can I offer my legal services to you? I just do it for the experience at this point. And this was still maybe in my fourth year or fifth year of law school. And
Fabulous, man.
um, but for me, it was just surprising that they didn't have a lawyer looking at any of these agreements, and these were some of the biggest uh,
Yeah.
artist bookings that were being done in the country at that point. And I was just, okay. I mean, they felt that they were in a position that they were privileged to even receive a,
A
an
booking.
agreement to book an
Yeah.
artist, right?
Yeah.
And
Which year was this?
this was like 2014. Yeah,
Mm.
2014,
So like 10
2015.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I know
yeah,
what you mean. You're just so happy that, oh my God, I'm getting a chance to, bring my art to the world, and I don't care about the agreement. Let them ask them, I'll sign anything.
yeah. And that's what. And when I started looking at some of these agreements, they were just absurd. There was no way. Um, we talk about wanting to make agreements fair, or agreements being one-sided, and these were not necessarily one-sided, but it's just that if a booking agent or an artist were in breach of the agreement, there was nothing that you could do about it. I mean, nothing practical that you could do about it. You could probably sue them, but sue them in a court in New York or California, and then yeah, I mean, you you're going to be spending more money than you actually paid for their performance. So
Yeah.
to me, those contracts almost meant nothing. They were just, okay, great to record the terms of
Yeah.
your offer and acceptance, but beyond that, it was just something that didn't really protect
Yeah.
my unofficial clients at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I was also working on a few theatrical productions, and had briefed some great media and entertainment lawyers at the time. But then I felt that they didn't understand um, a lot of the media that we were working with. So
Yeah.
a lot of the
When you
time,
say they didn't understand, you mean like they used very generic principles to a very niche specialized field, and they didn't understand the nuances of this field.
I mean, it was. So we all think media is all film and maybe TV, right? But that's when you call yourself a media lawyer, you call yourself an entertainment lawyer. It's important to understand. I mean, I was also once, and I know I'm digressing, but I was also once at a conference which was a media law conference, and I was fully prepared to speak um, about media law as a field, and I got into this panel discussion, and the moderator decided to drive the panel and make it all about news media. And to me, I was thinking, oh, are we talking about news media? And I'm prepped to talk about different forms of media and the regulation of media as a whole, and things like that.
When you
But
say news, you mean news and broadcasting, that kind, or within broadcasting specifically news? So extraordinarily specific.
it was within broadcasting news channels, and they were talking about media trials and should there be law governing this sort of stuff. And I said, okay, I mean, I thought we were here to talk about just how the media is regulated in India.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's quite complex, and now it only comes to light when something like net neutrality and
Yeah.
censorship and topics like these
Yeah.
are, this kind of nerve has been touched.
Yeah.
And
Drama.
and then we discuss it when you talk about censorship, and when you that's really when everyone in the media industry says, okay, they come together and say, okay, we need to have a firm consolidated stand against this. And you very rarely see or a topic like piracy. That's when you have a lot of law
So
meetings.
basically you're saying that people think that media law is media, or rather media law is so much more than just these eye-catching topics like piracy or media trials and things like that. That is just one part, maybe not even a part of media law. But the real meat is in us in the sense, media lawyers representing artists of all forms, whether it is theater, film, music, I don't know, art, all forms of that, and representing that.
Uh, Absolutely, it's like, if you think about media, I mean, what does the media consist of? It is the means by which the public at large or people get the content that's being.
Yeah, they perceive content. Yeah, whether eyes, ears, whatever. Yeah,
And that's
right.
it. It could be television, it could be theatrical cinemas, it
Yeah,
could
yeah,
be radio. But today it's a lot more than that. But it was always, I mean, some of
correct.
the first media was just a blank stage or an empty stage, and that was the platform. That as well is a medium of communication.
Yeah, of course. But now, if I have to take you back to your story, because here you are at the fag end of your legal, education, and
Yeah.
you're standing there, and you've been representing unofficially, talking to and representing your clients.
Yes.
And then you go to this big law firm, I think, or a big media, it's like really celebrated lawyers, and then you take something like, basically you're their client, and then you realize, holy shit, they actually they're not understanding what we are saying.
Yep.
So then at that point you're in the cusp of finishing your law school. Then what happens?
It was really tough, because at that point I said, okay, if these are the biggest in the industry, and I really want to learn and I want to work with, I want to make a practice, build a practice in this field. What do I do? And I don't see myself working for them. And At that point, I said, okay, you know what? There's probably no one even working in these fields. So there's everything has to be self-taught or learned in theory from elsewhere and then applied. And that's what I did. Initially, the moment I graduated, I converted all of those unofficial clients to official clients. Um, they still didn't pay me. But at that point, it was more about the experience than the money. And their trust was kind of payment enough, right? Because I was just fresh out of law school. Um, I could have made mistakes that cost them work or cost them dearly, but yeah, fortunately, none of that happened. And the one kind of assignment or brief led to the next, and the briefs kept getting bigger, and the assignments kept getting more complex. And at one point, I remember saying to myself, okay, after about a year of doing agreements with all the big agencies in the world. So these are agencies like WME and CAA, UTA at the time. These are all agencies that represent some of the biggest talent in the world. So LA-based agencies, between these, and now they also have Wasserman, but between these four or five, they represent all of your A-list actors, singers, performers, bands, DJs, producers, authors. Anyone famous that you can think of is kind of within this network. And I was for a lot of these promoters on the India side of things, um, and these were promoters who were booking these artists, and I would just argue with the lawyers on the other side, on the agent on the other side, and say, hey, don't you think we should have some sort of arbitration clause, agree to have something in a mutually inconvenient location? Because this agreement that's governed by the laws of California, but with a dispute resolution clause, which has its seat in New York and governed by the laws of the state of New York. It's not something. The performance is happening in India.
Yeah.
It's an Australian artist. It's
you're just adding complexity over complexity to the conflict of laws clause. But
and
but did they agree? I'm asked out of curiosity. Like, were you able to push through?
It was only much later that
Were actually.
agree. But this question of what the hell is this law of California was already in my mind. So that's when I said, okay, maybe I need to figure out what it is, and that's when I chose to do my master's in law at the University of California in Berkeley.
Yeah.
I got to learn from some of the best.
Yeah.
I won't say necessarily lawyers, because in media and entertainment, you also have business affairs.
Yes.
Who speak both languages, who speak the legalese, but can speak business, and also can speak with the talent or any of the creatives to get everyone on the same page and actually see a deal through to the finish line. And I learned with some of the best business affairs professionals there on just how to get deals going, how to even frame and structure some of the most complex deals, how to negotiate points from very contentious or conflicting positions to something that's more palatable and acceptable.
Correct.
And how to keep moving forward. That is really, really key. And to me, that really changed, gave me perspective that I really didn't have before, and opened my eyes to a whole new way of
world. Of course. But tell me one thing. I want to pause a little bit here, and I know we didn't discuss this earlier, but I if when it comes to your LLM experience, and I think your LLM experience was very well thought out, because you went to Berkeley, which is known for media and entertainment law. It's also geographically, it is in a place, it is in the state of California, which is literally like, I don't know, the media capital of the world in that sense. In every way, not just because it has Hollywood, but in every way. And then you went to a college, you went to a really top tier college, which is known for this field, and that is a field that you are pursuing. So for someone, and because I get asked this question very often, should I pursue my LLM, should I go abroad? And it was very different when we went. I mean, I think I still went a few years before you, but I still think that was very different when we went. Of course, the dollar rate was much lower, and I'm not entirely sure if it makes sense now. So what is your perspective? Like, I liked the way you have thought through, and it appears that you were very focused with your LLM decision. But if somebody were to ask you this, what would you say?
I get asked this question almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And at some point I told myself I'm not going to answer this question anymore now.
Sorry.
No, when I will answer it now, because when people ask me in the future, I'll say, hey, look at this podcast.
Yes, do it, huh? Pakka.
But for me, and all valid points and things you need to consider. And I just recently, I was at a Berkeley Law Admits meetup, which is like an event where you meet and share information with all the new admits who are going to start their LLM in the fall semester and stuff. And I was telling them, what rent was like in 2017 and 2018, and they were telling me what it was like, what it is right now. And I just said, okay, that's unaffordable. I don't know if I don't know if I'd be able to I don't know if I'd make that decision today. But that's only from a financial perspective. Coming back to answering the core of your question, I think it is, an LLM is always for yourself. It's for you. It's perspective. No one's really going to value an LLM. No employer, whether law firm or counsel or in-house, they probably value an MBA more than an LLM, right? And a lot of HR don't know what value an LLM brings onto the table also. And that's also because the whole LLB and LLM program in India has not been touched for years. It's been but internationally it's changed a lot. So that's it's the gap between the industry and the academia has really narrowed down in the LLM program. And it is a lot more LLM programs are for the working profession. Right? And that is, for me, it was about the perspective that it gave me. It was just, okay, I'm presented with a problem that may be within my backyard, but what I was able to develop was just a local way of doing things. It was just local and with a process. Substantive law may change from city to city or state to state, and but it's just the thought process of analytical thinking is what
how to think like a lawyer, I think, is what it develops for you. So I hear you say, and I think I have the same view, that if you want to do the LLM for yourself, like, don't have any expectations that is going to increase your marketability or it's going to give you more salary when you come back, etc. But if you can afford it, and if you can and if you really want to, because it will certainly make you, in my opinion, it certainly makes you a better lawyer, because it makes you better at thinking like a lawyer. Now,
it's for me, it was also about being able to speak across borders, understand cultural sensibilities, understand just the way things were done. And at that point, America was a focus market for me. and I needed to understand just what, what are some of the, um, yeah, what are some of the natural corollaries of doing business there, and I kind of understood it. But also, I must. Um, yeah, put in a caveat at this point and say that I didn't really apply to too many law schools. It was I applied to only two. One was Northwestern and the other was Berkeley, and it was more a consideration of I didn't want to leave work or leave the businesses that I had set up and um, be away for an entire academic year. So I was looking for something that was more of an executive. Kind of executive MBA kind of program. So Berkeley offered the LLM over 2 summers, which was a lot more manageable for me.
With your schedule.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And Northwestern was, I think, 4 months at that point. And the financial consideration was Northwestern was offering a lot more money than Berkeley was. I mean, Berkeley is a public school, but so their scholarship offers are much lower in most cases. But the moment I did some more research into Berkeley, and I saw that it is the place in the
Yeah.
world for IP.
Yeah.
And not so much entertainment, it isn't, but intellectual property all round, it was just the number one program
Yeah.
in the US, if not in the world. So
Yeah.
I went
It's
ahead.
almost a no-brainer. Yeah, come on.
It was, I don't even know why I was thinking about it. Maybe
Yeah.
because the money, but and it's very easy in that moment to think, oh, how do I choose between these two? But if you take a step out and you think, it's hard to think 5 years out
Yeah.
or 10 years out. But then if you do think 5 years out and 10 years out, or you just happen to take a step back and look at it, then it's a no-brainer, right? So
Yeah. True.
at that point, it's a lot of financial pressure. It's
Yeah. It is.
mobile
It is.
phone?
I know.
Yeah.
I've gone through it, so I know
Yeah.
how it was. Mine was so I had a very basic way of I wanted to get into Harvard or Yale. I got rejected. So it was like Columbia was the third, and then there was NYU and Berkeley and Chicago. So I got on the all of the other four, and then I just went and saw the rankings, and I found that Columbia was third. So I just accepted. And my brother-in-law was living in the city, so I had I didn't have to pay rent and stuff like that.
Nice.
So that's really how I made up my mind. I think I'm really fortunate that everything fell in place. But I would recommend anyone listening to do what Rafael did and not what I did in terms of choosing a law school. Okay, now the real. I was just chatting with you, and I don't know how time really went as I was chatting. But the real what I want to talk to you about today is really get your experience and your expertise in the law and music world. Now, for anyone who's completely unaware, what is the role of lawyers? Like, most people like, so what the hell are lawyers doing here? Like, what is the role of lawyers in the world of entertainment, specifically in the world of music?
It's evolved over the years. I think before my time, but I think it's fair to say that in the 90s, lawyers would just would just take would just be given a brief and say, okay, these are the terms of the deal, and this is what was discussed. Just give us a draft and stay in your cubicle. That was kind of what it was, and you would see a lot of the business decisions that could override legal decisions. Even though that was the physical contract signing era, you would see paragraphs cancelled out, and then all parties signing next to that paragraph, or amendments being made by hand, and everyone signing there. And a lot of the times the legal team had no clue that this was happening till there was a dispute. And then the legal team would turn around and say, who told you to do this, or who advised you to do this? And it was it wasn't the era of intellectual property. Let me say that when um, when we and I don't think back then, especially in India, the intrinsic value um, of creators was really even fathomed at the time, right? So
Yeah.
um, from from there, getting to a point uh, where today we have a flush, vibrant, creative industries, um, and Bollywood gives us our soft power globally.
Yeah.
I like to say it's Bollywood and butter chicken that gives us our soft power globally. Um, it, uh, we are at a position where, okay, we know that um, we're moving a lot of this content across borders, right? And
Mm.
I think once that realization came in, we had the first wave of Anglo-American media outlets, or let's say the first wave of foreign media outlets come into the country and set up networks, set up studios. Um, that's really when you would see um, the legal departments, a little more focus on the legal departments, a little more focus on business affairs as well. When we went from being, from the physical era to the digital era, I think the whole legal affairs and business affairs was either clubbed, or business affairs was dropped or given to the business team, right? But it's so important to have someone who understands um, the legal side of things, someone who understands the creative and the business side of things. I feel the role of any producer today worth their salt is 33% creative, 33% business, and 33% legal.
Yeah, but then what does like for someone who has no idea, like what is a lawyer doing here? Like you spoke about intellectual property, and I think that itself as a term would probably need clarification to maybe the people who are listening. So then why are you here? Like why are you as a lawyer, not you as in why
Yeah.
is a lawyer here? What do you do?
So I'll tell you what intellectual property entails in the first place, right? I mean, I'll tell everyone who's listening, you definitely know what it is. Um, and intellectual property deals with everything that is, let's say, a figment of our mind, our imagination. And in that sense, if you think about it, law is also a figment of our imagination.
Yeah.
Right? So it's this, it's, if you think of our mental work product,
Yeah.
it can be put into two buckets. One is creative expression, for which we have copyright that protects
Yes.
everything from literary works to musical works, dramatic works. That's movement, whether it's in a play or in a form of
Dance,
dance.
choreography, yeah.
And then you have cinematograph films, which is basically a bunch of moving images taken together. The images themselves are artistic works. And then you have sound recordings, which could be a recording of the musical and literary works coming together. It could be a recording of this conversation
Yeah.
right. So right now, just the audio itself is a sound recording. The video together is a cinematograph film.
That's right.
That's the copyright side of what comes out of your brain, what is creative expression. The other side of things is more industrial property, so more usage in business or industry, right? And that includes everything from trademarks. How do you protect a brand that you've built? How do you protect a trade name? And you protect it, I mean, against your competitors, but you're doing it to protect consumers. But if you think about it, it's not. I mean, it's a brand. You can put it on anything from salt to satellites, and the effect of that brand today is the fact that a brand that makes salt can also sell satellites, right? So um, it's this. I mean, it's this gamut of things that's on the industrial property side. So trademarks, patents, design,
Designs,
geographical
GI
indication.
marks,
Yeah.
yeah.
And all of these are necessary to kind of protect, um, not just in a lot of cases, a combination of your mental work product and your physical labor, right? So if you think about and if you think about designs, you think about patents for products and things like that. If you think about geographical indications, protecting our traditional knowledge and cultural expression, so that's kind of intellectual property. And um, intellectual property, if you mainly look at the copyright side or the creative expression side of things, um, that is uh, that is the entire canvas in which we operate in the media and entertainment industry. Of course, there are laws that govern the media itself and the dissemination of the media. But just if you were to consider entertainment or content, uh, that fits squarely within copyright, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I
uh,
think I think that's a nice sort of I don't know, explanation with regard to what is intellectual property, and then sort of segueing in it into what is it that media and entertainment lawyers do in this universe.
yeah.
Now tell me, for because I did tell you that we will break down sound recordings, and you actually did explain a little bit on sound recordings and um, uh, cinematographic works and etc. And now with things like YouTube and Spotify and all of these digital the digital democratization of art, every artist can possibly put up his or her work. What kind of legal challenges is that brought in, number one? And then how can a lawyer help this an artist be safe, let's just say?
So digital has taken intellectual property into the new technological age. That's um, I have a cap that even says IP NTA, which is intellectual property in the new technological age, and um, that the internet has been a game changer, right? Because it's kind of democratized how you can receive any form of content and when you can receive it and where you
Yeah.
can receive it. Um, and we're seeing that today with what we call OTT platforms, or what is otherwise known as VOD, video on
Yeah.
demand,
Yeah.
uh, or SVOD, subscription video on
Yeah.
demand services. And when you look at where we've come from to, from having DVD rental stores or book rental clubs to, yeah,
Video on demand.
it's
Yeah.
you see, um, you just see the instantly available mammoth library of content that's available at the click of a button, even today, right? And it's not just um, we're going further into the age of media where not just can you access media at the click of a button, you can also create media at the click of a button. So with the kind of AI models that are out there today, it's just you most tasks you don't need to do anymore. It's most expenses don't need to exist anymore.
Yeah.
Um, Putting that in, setting that as context, um, what what a lawyer is essentially doing for an artist is making sure that within that legal framework that I outlined, they are able to protect themselves. Because think about it like this: we think of um, we think of films, and we think of um, music all the time, right? When we talk about media, the first two things that we
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
are films and music. But imagine a magician today, right? And a magician comes to us and says, "Hey, I've got a new trick. I need to protect it." And we say, "Okay, great trick. What we can do is it's a trick that makes someone disappear into a cupboard. Give us the design of the cupboard, and we will get the design register. And then if this is an entire show and you don't want anyone to copy your show, give us the script of your show and we'll register a copyright
Yeah.
in the script." But while that seems like, okay, great solution, if you think about it, the moment we take this magician's design and we apply for registration of this design, we're revealing his trick to the world.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And the moment where we are registering the script, which is now available in the copyright journal, will be published there for months before it's even registered. It's out there to the world to see what is being done on stage, and therefore it becomes really important not just to go, okay, this is the substantive law that's available to me. It really is important to understand what is the context, what is the environment in which someone's creating something, what is the how is that received by the market, or how does that get disseminated into the market, and what's the business model, or how are they monetizing whatever it is that they're creating. And if you look at each of these steps, there is some interplay of law. And again, just like if we said, okay, we don't honor any kind of copyright today, you could write a song, the next minute I write the same song and I change two words, and we're both exploiting the song. At that point, it's a question of utilitarianism, where you need to think, okay, will people even create any longer if they don't they're not incentivized to create, their works are not protected.
So basically, you're saying that the reason why we have all of this is so that people feel safe in creating, and we don't kill the artistry that people have naturally. And it is important for us to that way protect what somebody has created, because it is in many ways their life work. Now, since you specifically spoke about songs, what is the interplay of law and music? Like I did a one of my subjects in Columbia was law and music, and that was the first time I realized that there's so many components. There's the lyrics is separate, and I may not have, that is somebody else's copyright, and then the sound recording is somebody else's, and then I may be singing it. It was like so complicated. I didn't know that there are so many components to one song.
Well, just by knowing that, a lot more than half the music lawyers that we have working. It's really important to ask yourself that question, right? Is it just homogeneous and everything is that final product that you end up streaming on Spotify or Apple or Amazon or any of the Indian DSPs? The question, if pointed at how does this actually come into being, you'll see, yes, there's someone who's writing lyrics, and that someone who's writing lyrics may not be writing the music or composing the music. But if you think about it individually, the lyrics could be a poem. It could be
of course,
just by themselves.
Yeah.
Moment you add some work of musical composition to the lyrics, that's when you have music for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what in the music publishing industry, which is not to be confused with the recording industry or the distribution industry. I know I'm getting technical. The music publishing industry, when that lyric and music comes together, that's called a song. And that song, when it's taken by a performer into a studio, and by performer again, it's not if you think of performers. The moment I say performer, you see a singer, and you'll probably
Singer,
see
yeah.
the face of the biggest
Yeah.
singer in the country coming up there.
Yeah.
Right? It's not only the singers. When I
Yeah,
say performer, it's a singer, it's a musician,
of course. Yeah, the
instrument.
ones who are playing the instruments. So,
Exactly.
who are reading, literally reading off the notes and then playing it on each instrument. Yeah.
And those are the performers who give life to the song, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That performance is what's actually recorded in a studio.
Hmm.
And that recording is what we call a master or a sound recording, or what the world considers music.
Yeah. What the world considers to be a song. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, and whereas that's just the recording.
Correct. Correct.
The song is actually the lyrics and the music coming
Right.
together. The performance is those performers going into a studio and performing it. And a song will always kind of be the same. Of course, yes, there are versions and arrangements,
Hmm.
things like that. A recording, you can create different recordings and do recordings. But if you think of a performance, no two performances are ever the same.
Yeah.
Even if
True.
they're done by the same person in
Same
a
artist. Yeah.
5 minutes, they're never the same. So um, and again, how is this the answer to your question? But it is important. This is what the basis on which our practice is based, right? Just
Yeah.
this, and then you have the law that actually tells you, okay, how is it? Who is the author of the lyrics and the
Yeah. Who
music?
owns basically?
Who owns it, and
Yeah.
what's the difference between an owner and an author?
Yeah.
Because I can sell you my song, but does that make you the author?
Yeah. 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 True. True.
And I will always be the author. You can be the owner, and that's different. So these are the kind of things that we deal with on a daily basis, making
And
sure that if an artist is assigning their performance to a label, or if a label is commissioning a recording, who owns the copyright? What's the term?
yeah.
Do we
And I
own it?
want to underscore it a little bit over here because, I think there is so much value in going to a lawyer, especially if you are an artist. This is your life's work. And you need to understand because your rights, your authorship and ownership can be directly translated into money. And can be directly translated into money for a long term with royalty and things like that. And these are things, because they're so technical, like just like how you said, they are so technical, it's impossible for even forget ordinary people, but even regular lawyers who don't practice in this area, it's impossible for the rest of us to really advise you with a great deal of specificity. So I think it's very, very useful for any person, whether you're a musician or whichever field you identify yourself with in the world of art, to go to a media and entertainment lawyer who does this, like someone like yourself who does this on an everyday basis.
Yeah, and that's really why I set up the firm also, to focus on people in the creative industry.
Yeah,
Because
it's very useful actually.
Yeah, we like to joke that we can't understand any other types of problems or anyone else's problems. We can only understand creators' problems. But at the end of the day, it's again, when you look at a contract coming with that perspective, it could have a very different outcome versus someone who's not from the field.
Yeah, of
looking
course.
They could be looking at the most irrelevant clauses and the ones that ultimately have no impact on
Correct.
The monetary aspects that you
Yeah.
see.
Now tell me, because we spoke about this, I think it's a good segue for me to ask you, what are some of the mistakes that you see people make, like your clients in that sense, make, which if with a little bit of knowledge and understanding they can avoid it? And what are some of the, as in what are the, I don't know, the fallouts of that mistake,
Yeah. Our clients don't make any mistakes because they're
I love it. I love it. But not Rafael's clients. Other people who are not going to him and who should.
yeah. No, that was just a joke, but there are. I mean, a lot of the times we have clients because they've made mistakes also. So um, it. I think the first thing, like you said earlier, even considering the need for a lawyer is something that doesn't occur to most people. And when they receive a contract, they're just so happy that, okay, we've received a contract. Let me, I, the other person will be offended if I try and ask questions or suggest any changes in this contract. So let me just take it. I'll do a quick read and sign it. Right? And we I wish it were easy to. I wish it were that easy, right? It's supposed to be such that you read an agreement, and or an agreement supposed to be in words what both parties have agreed.
Yes, of course.
Consent is ultimately them agreeing to the same thing in the same sense.
Yeah.
But today we're so far from that vision that that you can't read an agreement today, and especially in media and entertainment, you can't read an agreement and just understand it from top to bottom, because there's so much that's going on in the background, especially in common law countries. You may have what's written in the statute books also.
Yeah.
The law is always evolving, so you can't expect an individual to keep up with where the law is today.
Yeah, of course. And it's entirely likely. First of all, there's the technicalities that you explained earlier. And the second part, which you just said, is about the updation in the law through judgments of the Supreme Court, which only a practicing lawyer in this field will know. Like, I would not know, because I don't practice in the field of media and entertainment law in that sense. So, I would be able to help certainly with some amount of contract work, but then anything on an ongoing basis, I think we'll need to go to a specific lawyer. So yeah, sorry.
You're absolutely right. It's also, just the Copyright Act was amended in 2012, right, to give authors, in the case of an assignment of their work, to give them an equal share of royalties, even in the case of an assignment.
Yeah. So we have to just clarify the word assignment over here.
Yeah.
In case people don't know.
If I've created a work and I am transferring it to you, I'm transferring ownership in the work to you for a sum of money. Technically, you should own this work and not have to. You've paid me money. You shouldn't have to pay me anything going forward. But in 2012, the law was changed to make sure that from the exploitation of this work, even though you've paid me a fee upfront, I continue to receive 50% from the exploitation of that work.
And when you say exploitation, you mean that, when I am using that work to make money, that work makes money for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also, through that amendment, there were copyright societies that were then recognized to receive these royalties on my behalf, and then distribute these royalties according to the usage of the work and things like that. Now, it's been more than 10 years since we've had this amendment, and you still don't have. I don't think you have more than 30 or 40,000 people registered at those copyright societies. And if you talk about all the authors that there are in this country, there's way more than that.
Yeah, it's completely disproportionate.
Yeah, and this is not even a question of a contract here, right? Here we're talking about rights. Like, what is your
rights and real money, that you can earn from your work.
Yeah, without.
But I also think that there's no awareness. To be honest with you, awareness is very poor.
Exactly, which is awareness is the first step, and then when people are aware, the access to justice or access to legal services, that's we were discussing, that's another hurdle. There are a few hoops for people to jump to before they can Yeah, they can actually. Like if I were to say, okay, I need a good divorce lawyer. Okay, that's firstly divorce is
A
uh,
taboo.
yeah, and then okay, now who do I ask for a
Yeah.
recommendation? And
Yeah.
then um, it's always, oh, I know someone who knows someone who's a lawyer. Let me ask them, and then.
Yeah, I know.
But in the legal field, we may not even know.
Yeah, that's not our area of practice.
Yeah,
Hopefully we can change that, yeah, with this podcast and with the Daily Lawyer, where we are able to bring, professionals of that particular area into light. I think I have taken so much time. I'm so sorry. Like we've gone way over time. So I just have uh one last question before I move to the last segment, and that is what do you see as being the future of entertainment law in this country, and what advice would you give to some young lawyer who sees himself or herself in this field?
I see the future of entertainment law being an interplay between not just the law, societal norms, technology, and market. And it's to whether it's enforcement of intellectual property, protection, or monetization. If you think about any of those aspects, it's going to be what is the right interplay between these four.
Yeah.
And the right interplay or the right formula between these four that will constitute success, and the wrong or the weak one will mean failure, right? And you can put that in perspective and say, okay, we've overcome, or we had supposedly overcome piracy because 4G data was free, everyone was streaming, but the moment that data services started charging for their content, you saw a lot piracy once again. So did we solve the problem of piracy just by market? No. And there have to be, so there's this aspect of societal norms, and it's okay to pirate something. Today, if I can't find a book, the first thing I'll do is I will go and type online free PDF version, and that that's something that's unfortunately not looked down upon, or it's excusable. It's seen as like, okay, that's kind of like breaking a
Yeah,
trust.
I can't find it. So you know what do I do? Yeah. And it's so freely available. Yeah. It's so freely available. So
And it also, we see it with sharing of passwords to Netflix accounts and
yeah.
and things like that as well. So, but that's just an example of how you look at these four kind of pillars of intellectual property, and the interplay between these pillars will dictate the success of intellectual property in any aspect. So,
including entertainment law.
yeah.
Okay. So, the more I speak to you, the more I realize that we've not even scratched the surface of this entire universe. And it's also very less known. Like I genuinely believe that awareness is very less in this area. So I'd love to do like a more in-depth series of podcasts on law and music. But now we are going to the last segment, which is my favorite segment to do because it's very short answers, and it's called 5 4 3 2 1, and I do it because I like to listen to the answers. So these are short answers. I'll ask you 5 of something, 4 of something, 3 of something, like that. Okay, so 5 productivity tips that can even you say any apps that you use or anything like that.
5 productivity tips. I mean, this is not something that I've always done, but it's more recent, and I find it has increased my productivity. I don't like the term productivity, actually, because it's very. I mean, I'm purely capitalist, but I feel that it's very capitalist, and efficiency. These are terms that were just defined to defined to understand how fast wealth is moving from one place to the other. So, but anyway, leaving the socialist comments aside, um, I think um, meditation has really helped me. Not necessarily any kind of spiritual meditation, but just being able to build focus. And that's in light of all the devices that are present in our life today. They're just craving for our attention. And for us to be able to just focus on our own kind of natural thoughts um, becomes harder and harder. And I feel that meditation can help build that concentration, that focus on what it is, and just
Yeah,
build some clarity of thought,
that's
right?
true.
Um, Exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, I would only engage in forms of exercise that were recreational, like play football or some sort of sport um, that was fun. It's a game, but you need a lot more people than yourself to play most of those games. And whereas going for a walk or a jog or just working out yourself is something that you need yourself. And that's really helped me be a better version of myself and then feel more energized. I used to think it's ironic that you could exercise and feel more energized, but it's true. Um,
Yeah, it's true.
and um, I I had I needed to make reading or at least consumption of new thoughts and new ideas a habit once again. So that was something um, that I needed to do because I'm not an avid reader. Voracious, and would not have been in my vocabulary also. So it's something that, and now you don't have to necessarily read, but you can consume literary content through audiobooks and
Yeah,
uh,
true.
yeah, and there are apps that make summaries
Yes.
of them for you also. But um, it's just about getting this new content into your life. I think that's three. I need two more. Um, One is definitely um, making technology work for you rather than
Yeah,
you.
that's a good one.
Yeah, and that includes. And I know I'm sounding much older than I am right now, but just includes limiting your screen time and even things like notifications and stuff. Just um, why do you need to be notified someone's like, comment, and share? If you'd rather just build kind of maybe, I'm not saying get off it. I have kind of if you see my Instagram or my LinkedIn, I'm not really active, but that's just because of a time thing. It's not. There's nothing else, but you can definitely build intervals to at which you go and check all of this. And it's not just social media platforms. People are addicted to checking their email or their WhatsApp also. So that's
Yeah.
something that, and on a holiday, that's when you really feel, okay, have I got new email? But you can create regular intervals, like 10 minutes every hour, check email or check WhatsApp, um, and then you can respond. Um, the final, um, yeah, the final productivity tip today would be, yeah, maybe get enough. Take your time. We're all in this kind of rat race, especially in Bombay. I like to say it's a rat race on a hamster wheel, but we're always in this kind of race or this competition to get ahead, and take it slow. Each
Yeah.
kind appreciate and try and understand every moment what it is that you're doing, and how this affects what you're doing in the short run and the long term. And then you'll see it in a different way. That's you may come to or go about your task with a different, maybe a kind of gratitude also, and or a little more appreciation towards regular tasks that you're
So
doing.
basically, you're saying slow down.
Yeah, slow down,
Slow
take
down and stop and smell the flowers like that.
it, and
Uh,
just what they always say. Success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration, but they don't tell you how important it is to first be inspired or work in the right direction. You could be working really hard, but just with the wrong direction and achieve.
yes, absolutely. That's a good point. It's a great
Take your
point.
time to figure out what it is that you actually are doing and
Yeah.
where it is you want to go, and then
Where is it leading you? Absolutely. Now, the next question actually is 4 books that you'd recommend. That
4 books. I'm not just saying this because it's in the news now. This is a book that I've been going back to for a while. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow.
Daniel Kahneman.
Yeah, and it's I think one of the most important things. I mean, a lot of the stuff in that book has been disproved over a period of time, and for me, that's one of the most important learnings. Also, to be brave enough to make a theory in the first place. You find very few theorists today who are brave enough to put a theory out there into the world, and be happy with it being disproved, because in disproving that theory is also reaching closer to the truth. And I think I think that's a great book. Atomic Habits is a great book as well. For the music industry, all you need to know about the music business, it's not lawyers and music business professionals that can read. Anyone, and I mean anyone and their dog, can read this book and get an understanding of what the music business is. And when you actually end up reading that book, you just think, this big deal that lawyers made about the law, and that's what they did with the music industry also. And this kind of busts a lot of myths and gives you an insight into the music industry. The last one, for me, it was this book called Creativity Without Law, and that's something that I was working, or problems I was facing on a daily basis, but only when I kind of went through this book, that's when I understood, okay, there are others facing this problem, and this is how they chose to go about it, and this is a new way of looking at things.
Never heard of it. I'm gonna go and look it up.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
3.
Aaron Ferenczi and Kate. Forget her name. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'll look it up because I have never been heard of this. I'm a huge reader. Like I ask these questions only so that I can build my to read list. 3 pieces of advice, or rather, if you had to, that you would want to tell young lawyers or young students.
Oh, no, maybe I should have saved some of the 5 to give. Young lawyers and young students. One of the most important things, I think, especially on the litigation side, lawyers will tell you that you don't need to put yourself in your client's shoes, or you need to be a little more objective and things like that. But I feel really arriving at most of the solutions today requires you to put yourself in the feet of your client, and at least look at it from their perspective, look at it from an industry perspective, and that really can set you apart from the rest. That's number one. The second thing is listen and observe a lot more than you speak at first. And that will also help you appreciate your opinion. We all get so carried away that someone's come someone's asking for our opinion, that we just go on and share our opinion and feedback, and um, we forget to even listen, or let them finish briefing us or telling us what they even want a solution for in the first place, right? So, and then the third, the third part of it is be a little more compassionate, with not just um, not just with your clients, but be a little more compassionate with, and again, I can say this in a capitalistic point of view, right? If you look at a company like Amazon, they built an empire on fast delivery and great customer service. Compassion, not just a spiritual thing, or it can also be used to build the best practice that you have. It can be used to retain clients.
So when you say be more compassionate, I think it connects to your first point, which is like put yourself in their shoes, not just maybe your client's shoes, but the other side, the industry, the impact that it's going to have, and so on. I think this is good advice, because we don't hear it very often, so it's good advice.
Yeah, because it's very, a lot of times we have clients who say, "Oh, we are giving them too much time to react," but you need to understand who's on the other side, and sometimes you catch more flies with honey than with
vinegar. Yeah, true. Okay, 2 life lessons that you have learned so far in your life.
Yeah, never give up, or perseverance and patience. Those are the 2, life lessons or principles that I would say give you longevity and success, or success in the long run.
And finally, what is the best piece of advice that you have received?
The best piece of advice that I've received. I don't know if it's the end of the financial year or what, but recently some advice that I received was, and this is more, the meta learning is got to do more with perspective, and how you should use your perspective to look at a problem, arrive at a solution differently. But this is more financial advice. When most people think, what I'm going to invest at the end of the month or at the end of the year is my earnings minus my expenses, and that's going to be my investments. But don't just think about your money, think about your time and your effort as well, and then try to apply this. Your savings or your expenses should actually be your earnings minus your investments, and that should be what you spend, and that could be your time or your money.
Yeah, that's good advice, man. Like, I think that advice is tailored for me right now, given the phase of life that I'm in right now, for myself in a professional way and personal way. So, but it was wonderful speaking with you, Rafael. I know we've gone way over time, but we've just managed to keep chatting. So I think we really need to do part 2 and 3, and I don't know how many more parts where we dive a little deeper into this subject. Thank you for giving me your time and being so generous with it today.
Pleasure.
And I hope to have you back on the podcast sometime soon.
Yeah, anytime. Anytime.
Thank you, Rafael. Thank you.